It's good to worship Him.
Yes, amen.
I'm so thankful tonight to be here with such a lovely and pleasant and wonderful group of saints called to be saints of God. Sometimes we're referred to as saints in the Scriptures. Other times they use the phrase called to be. So however it is tonight, called to be or saints, it is certainly a pleasant place to be. And it's a wonderful place. It causes you to smile. It causes your heart to be warm with joy. When you look around and see what the Lord has done, the song said, for me and for you. And then how pleasant it is. The Bible said how good and pleasant. Not just good, but pleasant. It's delightful. How good and pleasant it is for brethren to be joined together, gathered together in unity. In unity. And what a pleasant place the church is, because the church is the epitome. It is the mountain. The Bible likens the church to the high place, the mountain. And we know that it's wonderful to see the mountain rise up and be majestic and strong. A mountain, when you look at it, it reminds you of something very firm, very majestic, very lifted up, very highly exalted, and it's the mountain. Far above the hills and the plains, and then it's pleasant and good that God chose us, and then let us choose Him. Yes. He first chose us, then He lets us choose Him. And without Him first choosing us, we could not have ever chosen Him. But because we are chosen of God, we then can choose God. And what a wonderful picture that is, because you would have never chosen God unless He had chosen you. He first chose you, then you choose Him. Without Him doing that great work of sanctification, setting apart in your life, you could not have chosen Him. It's true that I did choose Him, but it was after He chose me. First of all, God has to choose you. You cannot choose Him in the beginning, because you and I are rebels. We by nature are alienated from God. We are referred to as enemies of God. In our state of carnality, in our first Adam state, in our natural state, in our degenerated state, we're referred to as alienated from God and enemies of God. And the Lord has to make that choice by His omnipotence and His omnipresence. The three great qualities that God is and has, and no one can be like unto God. No one can be as He is, because He's the only being that is omnipotent, that is all-powerful, omniscient, all-wise, and omnipresent, able to be at any place, present. He only has those qualities. No one can have those. Not angels, not anyone but God. Jehovah God, the eternal God, has those three qualities. So by being omniscient and knowing all things, and being omnipresent, being everywhere, and then being omnipotent, all-powerful, He is able then to make choice of that which man would make choice of, and that which man would not make choice of. God does not just make choice of what man does, because I possibly, or you possibly, would not have been chosen, because we may not have been favored of whatever person was choosing. But God, who sees beyond us and knows beyond us with the fact he is omniscient, all wise. He sees things that we cannot see, and he's all powerful. He's able to overcome things that we cannot overcome, and he's omnipresent. He's able to be where we could not be. So therefore only God can choose you, and the only reason that tonight, and I'm so happy I'm here, I don't have one gripe, one grumble, one complaint. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not upset with anybody. The best way to not be upset by anyone around you is not let them upset you. Simple, isn't it? The best way to not be upset is not to let them upset you. And to realize that they don't need to upset you. They shouldn't upset you. And so don't let them upset you. Just don't do it. Because once you do, you're in their control, and then you become their servant, and they become your master, and you become their slave. However it is, because they upset you. They have you off balance. They have you angry. They have you out of sort. And when you're out of sort, you can't think straight. And when you're out of sort, you can't reason. You know, you lose all reason when you become angry. You're not able to reason. You can't reason. People do terrible things when they become angry. They lose their reasoning. They can't reason. They're mad. They're temporarily insane. They can't control themselves. So God doesn't want you to be in that state. So don't let them upset you. Just remember that they're going to do what they're going to do. And you are not going to change them. You may think you change somebody. You don't change them. You really don't change them. You may think you're going to correct them. You don't really correct them. They, for advantage, give in or give over, or they reason it's better to give in or to give over than to continue the argument or the debate. And so, as far as you rehabilitating them or changing them, you don't change them, you don't rehabilitate them, you don't correct them. Only God can correct a person with the nature of Christ in opposition to the nature of the fallen man, first Adam. If Christ does not enter the picture, if Christ does not come into the argument or the debate or whatever's going on in life, then you really won't correct them. They may give in by diplomatic reasoning. They may give in because they see it's going to lead somewhere. They don't want it to go at the moment. But you haven't changed their mind. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. The little boy sat down. The teacher said, "Sit down, Johnny," in the classroom. And Johnny wouldn't sit down. She said, "Sit down, Johnny." And Johnny wouldn't sit down. She said, "I'm going to come over there and whip you very good if you don't sit down." Johnny sat down. But under his breath, as he was sitting down, he said, "I'm still standing up. I'm still standing up." Now, she forced him to sit down, but not really. She corrected him, but not really. So we're like that. That's the way we are. That's the way we are. We believe we're right, and no one is going to tell us we're wrong. We believe that we are right. And a person said, "Well, I finally convinced them they were wrong." You did no such thing. They gave in because they saw it was better to give in. It was more diplomatic for them to say, I'll agree for the moment, for the time. They reasoned out that they would get in more trouble if they continued to be obstinate or opposing. But you didn't correct them nor change them. The only thing that will change them is the nature of Christ, because Christ is the only sanctification process in life from habit, possession, oppression, dispute, fear, of